Are you on the internet?
Somebody in our area is selling oatmeal lactation cookies.
You can't talk. All right.
How's it going?
Good.
Good.
Okay. Do you have any classic ideas next week at 91?
I've been trying to come up with something. What's from 91?
Stephen King, Sometimes They Come Back, Madonna's Truth or Dare, FX2, Sweet Talker, and Switch.
Man, it's trying to think of it because I just finished a review of a movie called 15 Things You Don't Know About Bigfoot, and it's a media satire. So I was trying to think of something that might fit with that. Paper Spiders is a movie about mental illness, very serious, about a mother and daughter, with the mother slowly succumbing to severe delusional paranoia.
Have we done Carrie? I think we have.
So yeah, I'm struggling to find something to relate to any of those at the moment.
All right. I'm sure there's a media satire movie we haven't done.
Yeah. It's very similar in tone to Borat. So if you can think of something like Borat that isn't Borat, maybe that would be an idea.
Okay. Nothing off the top of my head. So. All right. Let's see. And my settings are all screwed up again, so you won't be able to hear the intro and stuff.
All right.
I may need to get a whole new setup because if you ever came here again, the headphones don't work.
Oh, so. Good.
All right. So you ready then?
Yeah.
All right. Here we go. Welcome to the Everyone's a Critic movie review podcast. I'm your co-host, Bob Zerl. With me, as always, is professional film critic Sean Patrick. Visit us at IHateCritics.net, Everyone's a Critic Podcast.com. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Our handle is CriticsPod. Listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Alexa, all your podcatchers. And check us out on YouTube. We live stream usually every Monday evening, occasionally Sunday mornings. This time, Tuesday afternoon, or Tuesday evening. It's just going to move. We'll do the best.
Life. What are you going to do?
Yeah, exactly. Patreon.com/criticspod, the best way to help support the podcast. And then our TeePublic page at IHateCritics.net. I got the Batman versus Jesus shirt on, which our YouTube viewers can see. We also got various merch, the Cameron Diaz's shoulder, the logo, all sorts of stuff.
Yeah.
So check us out there, ihatecritics.net, and click on the TeePublic link. Let's jump right into the show. I'll share the picture for our YouTubers. And we'll start with the Amazon film Without Remorse.
Without Remorse, I think it's Tom Clancy, right? Yeah, it is.
Yes,
starring
Clancy.
Michael B. Jordan as a Navy SEAL who gets caught up in a CIA thing where his team ends up getting killed, and then they end up doing something in a foreign country. I think it's Syria, where they're getting involved with the Russians. The Russians fight back and kill his people on American soil, and it looks like somebody's trying to set everybody up to create a new Cold War, or maybe even a new hot war, for that matter, between Russia and America. The only good thing about it is that Michael B. Jordan is a really good actor, and he's got a lot of charisma, and he holds the screen, well, but this is really beneath him. It's beneath his talent. This is a very kind of old school, kind of 90s action movie that it reminded me a lot of Navy SEALs or stuff like that. And really, he's just so much better than that. And I want so much more for him than roles like this. This is too typical. This is too on the nose. Like he's such a better actor than what he's given to do here, because it's all just this cliched Tom Clancy stuff that we've seen a thousand times. This is a movie made for your dad. Like there's nothing that sets this apart from any other movie about Navy SEALs. There's nothing special about this. The action isn't special. The story isn't special. Even he is just kind of dimmed by this, because he doesn't feel fully invested in this either. You can just sense that he's going through the motions rather than really putting himself entirely within this character. And it just makes for a movie that's really, you just kind of sit there just waiting for it to end.
Yeah, I mean, just like any other Tom Clancy movie with Harrison Ford or Ben Affleck or whatever, they're just not. They're at least Ben Affleck's worst movies, and not worse, but on the lower end of his good movies. And same here with Michael B. Jordan. Harrison Ford, I don't know. I don't like anything he's done. So, but he made it watchable. Michael B. Jordan did. And, I got through it, and then I'm thinking, this isn't horrible. And then you get to the end and you're just like, oh yeah, it is. I forgot. I kind of just went along for the Michael B. Jordan ride, but everything is so typical about it. But you're right. He's the one thing that kind of makes it work as well as it does. But otherwise it's very forgettable. I mean, based on the movies he's done, this is definitely going to be a forgettable movie. By the end of the year, I won't even remember. Probably by the end of, or the next week, I'll have already forgotten this movie.
Yeah. I actually had forgotten about it until you popped the picture up, honestly. And then I had to try and recall it to my mind, because it's just not memorable. Like it feels like so many other action movies over the years, and elite teams of this soldier doing this. And Jamie Bell is in this, who's actually pretty good. He's got a kind of a role that is questionable, but he's also one of those roles where if he would just tell everybody everything he knows, maybe the plot ends.
Right. And Guy Pearce, I'm not going to blame him. The character was terrible.
Awful. It's like the second you see Guy Pearce, you go, okay, bad guy. Like, there's no nuance whatsoever. It's just the casting just makes it so obvious.
Yeah.
So, and poor Guy Pearce, he doesn't choose roles well anymore. And he just seems to be coasting from paycheck to paycheck, picking up these cliched bad guy roles. Ever since he got that couple $1 million for Iron Man 2, this has been his lot in life.
Yeah. Yeah, it's on Amazon if you are into this kind of thing. If you like Michael B. Jordan, go ahead and watch it, but he's got 1 million other things you could watch instead.
Tell your dad about it.
No, tell your dad about Creed. Let's move on to something better. Things heard and seen.
This movie is awesome. I really enjoyed this. So, I've got a reputation on this show for hating ghost movies because most of them aren't very good. I even hated the Conjuring movies, which I know a lot of people love, but I find the ghosts in those to be doing just all this unmotivated crap where like throwing things around the room, slamming doors, turning things upside down. Pardon me, sorry. Throwing
No
things,
problem.
turning things upside down, just nonsense that they don't need to do, and that there's really no explanation for.
In fairness, The Conjuring was more Ed and Lorraine Warren that upset you than the typical stuff. But continue. Go ahead.
No, they're a whole other issue, but yeah, I still felt that way about a lot of ghost movies. Is that I
Right.
don't like slamming doors and nonsense like that. This movie proceeds from a particular logic that you understand why the ghost it does what it does and is able to do what it does, and it creates a universe for this ghost to exist because this is not about the ghost. This is about the central two characters. Amanda Seyfried and James Norton are a young married couple in the early 1980s who are moving from New York City to upstate New York to further his career. He's becoming a professor. She's giving up part of her career as an art restorer to support him and move to this old house that has naturally, of course, has a reputation. People have died in this house many times before, and there's a very recent tragedy where even the kids who lived in that house are still living in the neighborhood, and in fact still come to interact with these characters and become part of the story. But not in any way that you would expect them to. And again, the way that the directors here, who are the brilliant directors of American Splendor, Robert Pulcini and dang it, I can't remember. I should remember her name too. I apologize. Just kind of escaping me at this moment. But Sherry Springer Berman and Robert Pulcini are terrific directors. They did American Splendor, and they're very smart about how they put this together. And that the ghosts element of it underlines the troubles that are within this marriage, and that's really what the center of this movie is these two people pulling apart, resenting each other, and the ghost sort of sensing that and sensing the growing, trouble between them. That a lot of it comes from the James Norton character as opposed to from the ghost. And that it's just a really smart way to tell a ghost story without telling the kind of tropes and cliches that have become so boring and rote and predictable and just ruining the genre of ghost movies by being so repetitious. This movie has similar items, but they do it in a very different way that I really appreciated. And Amanda Seyfried continues to improve as an actress. She just is she's become so credible, such a movie star, but also with a great deal of depth and believability that is really just fantastic. It's just wonderful to watch her grow as she has, and she's really fantastic here. She's very much the center of this. But then I was also surprised by James Norton, who I'm not familiar with at all, who's really great at slowly unraveling the menace of his character and his backstory and the clever, mysterious ways that gets revealed. And then you've got this terrific supporting cast in this movie who just are fantastic. Of course, you get the Oscar winner from Amadeus. Again, my names are escaping me here. I really should have my notes in front of me. But this whole cast is just so fantastic, and this movie, I just adore this. But I've got to give a particular shout out to these particular actors because they are so very good in this. And of course, F. Murray Abraham is who I was referring to before, who's just phenomenal in this. But you also have Karen Allen making an appearance here, and as well, who's just fantastic. There's really just this whole cast is so very, very good, and this whole movie is just so very, very good. Rhea Seehorn, especially, who plays Justine in this movie. She's a character who emerges late, especially throughout the film, but late especially, she becomes very, very important, and she's so very good. Her scenes with James Norton, there's specifically one scene with her and James Norton where they're just kind of poking at each other. She's just so superior in that scene. I just adored it. I just wanted to eat that scene up. It was so great.
I mean, it's really hard to say anything else that you haven't already said without being repetitive. I agree 100%. The fact that the ghost story was secondary to the main story, it really helps make this movie work. The cast is phenomenal. I like the fact that it wasn't afraid to go places that other movies might be afraid to, especially late in the movie. Uh, you look at Without Remorse, and Michael B. Jordan goes on a kamikaze mission to catch, to figure out this Cold War thing, only to find out he doesn't die at the end, that kind of thing.
Right.
This movie doesn't hide, doesn't take shortcuts like that. The way James Norton's character, if you put that character with the somewhat suspicious guy in Without Remorse, as both are kind of unraveling throughout the movie, this is done so much more superior to that. I mean, really to perfection. He does such a great job. That character is so well thought out, so well directed. Everything about it just flowed perfect. It was easy to watch. I mean, you almost forget it's a ghost story at times. I don't know. I really, and then you got the Karen Allen and the F. Murray Abram, and they're not distractions. They blend right in. I mean, because they're recognizable faces that a lot of times can distract you from what the characters are playing, and they don't do that here. I don't know. Everything about this is great.
Yeah.
It's on Netflix. I can't recommend it enough. I mean, and like you said, Amanda Seyfried is, she did that movie with Kevin Bacon. I talked about it a couple months ago or sometime during the pandemic. I don't remember when.
Yeah. I was kind of worried. I thought you were going to, I'm kind of worried how you would react to another Amanda Seyfried in a house movie.
But no, Mank was just phenomenal.
Oh yeah. She's so good.
Just
so good.
Next level. And then this continues right on with that. Such a great movie. I hope people get to see it on Netflix.
Yeah, it kind of premiered sort of funky on a Thursday. I think a lot of people may not have noticed it right away, but hopefully people are noticing it now because, again, she's just so fantastic. And this is really one of the best movies of the year so far.
Which scares me and makes me feel like people won't see it.
Well, especially in a week where it's kind of overshadowed by other bigger titles that I'm thinking people will be finding on Netflix.
Right. But I highly recommend it. Let's stick with Netflix and go to the Mitchells versus the Machines.
The Mitchells versus the Machines is this is a really, really funny movie, and that's no surprise. It comes from the people behind Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse and the Lego Movie. They know how to do this stuff, and they put together one heck of a terrific story here. So the main character is a young girl who's about to leave for college. She's voiced by Abby Jacobson from Broad City. Her parents are played by Danny McBride and Maya Rudolph. And they really do cut a very unique figure of a family that is completely unprepared for the adventure that they're about to go on. The last group of people that you would want to have to try and save the world. But they're tasked with that after a character played by Eric Andre, who is a tech mogul, creates a new robot servant, if you will, that's set to replace the smartphone, and he immediately tosses aside the smartphone that helped him build this, which carries the voice of Olivia Colman, who becomes the big bad of this movie. She's upset about being displaced by these robots, so she takes them over and has them begin to eliminate humanity by not killing them, but taking them hostage in little boxes that she's going to shoot into space. Boxes, at least, that have Wi-Fi at the very least. So at least that'll get people calmed down. I was expecting a lot of really bad jokes about, people staring at their phones all the time. There are a couple of dad joke moments in there from Danny McBride's character along those lines, but this movie really takes a lot of really fun twists and turns and doesn't necessarily go where you expect it to. They really build these wonderful family characters extraordinarily well to avoid a lot of the cliches that I was expecting. I expected a lot of lame humor about people spend too much time on their phones. Put down your phone and be with your family, that kind of stuff. And it doesn't necessarily do that a lot, and I really appreciated that. But I also appreciated just the wildly inventive animation. These character designs are fantastic. The robots are hysterical. They've got Fred Armisen and Breck Breck. I can't remember his name from Saturday Night Live. They're both terrific in this. Conan O'Brien has a great voice work in this as well. And of course, I mentioned Eric Andre, who's just wonderful at playing a character who's just completely clueless and self-involved. He just does that so very, very well. He did it in Bad Trip, and he does that here in a voice performance here. I really like this movie a lot, way more than I expected to. And I haven't seen a lot of really great things from Sony Pictures Animation recently, so this was kind of a really big surprise and a really wonderful surprise at that.
Yeah, my son's already watched it, I think 3 times. I haven't watched it beginning to end, but I've been around it for the last couple of days. And what I have seen is a very watchable movie. Similar to the Spider-Man, the Lego movie, they do a great job with the voices not being distracting.
Yeah.
You know, when you watch Shrek, you know Eddie Murphy's here and Mike Myers is there, and Robin Williams is Aladdin or the genie. You know that. And that works what they're doing here. Danny McBride, he could have been Danny McBride the whole time and have been really distracted, but you put his voice in that body and it actually kind of works the way they do it. It was same with everybody else in this movie. So I found that impressive. Just the watchability factor, that was really good. And then you throw in the fact that, I mean, that little boy could literally be my son. Pretty much is. If it was a movie about him, it'd be him. And so it's also on Netflix, and it's a great family movie. Better than what was that Jennifer Garner one that came out a little while ago?
Yeah, I don't remember that one at all.
It's like
wiped it from my memory.
Yes Day.
Yeah.
Which was fine for what it was, but this is gonna stick around, I think.
Yeah, I hope so. I think this would have been a massive hit in theaters if they had the opportunity to release it there, and hopefully people are taking the chance to see it. I'm sure they are. In fact, I already know they are. I think it was number 1 most of the weekend on Netflix, which good for them. They've been going down in subscriptions due to their consistently rising price, so maybe this will draw people back. Who knows? But I mean, they're putting out really great originals. I mean, there's a lot of bad ones too. I mean, Outside the Wire is still a terrible movie, but this one and Things Heard and Seen and Bad Trip. Bad Trip's probably in the lower end, but still, it was quite good for what it was. Right. They're putting out some pretty terrific originals.
Well, and they cleaned up at the Oscars, didn't they? Didn't they do a pretty good job there? What I guess I don't really know. I could have swore they won like 9 awards or something like that.
yeah. There was a couple. Yeah, Ma Rainey.
Oh yeah, there was that one. Mank was also a Netflix movie.
And multiple nominations for Mank.
Yeah, so yeah, I definitely check this out if you haven't already with your family. But if you have kids, I'm sure you have. So let's move on to Here Are the Young Men.
Here Are the Young Men is supposedly a movie that stars Anya Taylor-Joy. She's not the star of this movie. Don't be fooled by that. It's the story of dislocated youth, just young men on the cusp of being pushed into adulthood somewhere in Ireland. One of them is just kind of lost and confused. One of them is an outright criminal. Another one is supremely depressed and kind of reserved. The 3 of them are, in their last summer before they've got to go out into the world. And they're seemingly just going to go through the entire summer getting as drunk as possible, getting as high as possible, and, trying to avoid being caught by the cops. That changes slightly, quite dramatically, I guess, when one day they see a young girl run past them, and running into the street, she gets hit by a car and killed. And this sends one of them, the main character, into kind of a minor tailspin. The depressed one gets even more depressed to the point of suicidal, and the kind of psychotic one begins to explore his even more dangerous side as he takes a trip to America. Along the way, one of the characters begins to fall in love with Anya Taylor-Joy's character and kind of has a first love going on there, but he's also spending a lot of time getting into drugs and alcohol, and it's definitely costing him potentially that relationship. He's also trying to keep up with his friend who's growing more incredibly dislocated and violent. And the whole thing is shot with this kind of low watt handy cam kind of shooting that is all right, I guess. There's a lot of dream elements to this. Like there's a couple of scenes where people wake up from a dream when something dramatic has happened. And there's this one thing that runs throughout. This character played by Travis Fimmel, supposedly the host of a TV show called The Big Show. And it becomes the sort of focus of fantasy for the kind of psychotic character who's kind of exploring his psychosis within his dream of this TV show. But then it doesn't just stay with him as his delusion, because later on the main character also gets involved in that dream delusion, and you're kind of left going, well, this is supposed to be his psychosis, his expression of his own psychotic dreams, and yet his friend is now interacting with his psychotic dreams. So the whole thing just becomes a big giant mess. And on top of that, there's just that icky cash-in quality to the fact that they put Anya Taylor-Joy right there on the poster just around the time, of course, that her TV series is big on Netflix, and she's the most well-known person in the movie, and it's just a shame. Ferdia Walsh-Pilo, who's amazing in Sing Street, plays the depressed character in this movie, and he's barely given anything to do. And again, he's probably the most interesting actor in the movie aside from Anya Taylor-Joy.
Yeah, I read your review and I skipped this one. Sounds like a mess a little bit, but whatever. Anything else? Go ahead.
I just there's not much else to say. It just has that kind of a stink of a cash-in sort of dropped into the American market, and it just because Anya Taylor-Joy might grab a few fans here and there.
Yeah. Anything else before we move on to our classic?
Nothing really.
All right. Let me hit the button that you won't hear, and The Artist.
The Artist from 2011 was released this week in 2011, which kind of got me thinking about it. And I put together a piece for my writing outlet on the 10-year anniversary of the release of The Artist, because we did have the Oscars very recently, and one of the most reviled and disliked choices to win Best Picture was The Artist. And it kind of got me thinking about why I don't remember this movie and whether or not I liked or disliked it when it came out. And I went back and kind of read through some of the things that I had said about it in the past and realized I really like this movie. But it is not a Best Picture movie. It's a popcorn movie that happens to have a very artistic notion about it. So the idea here is basically the story of A Star Is Born. Just take that story and kind of put a silent movie spin on it. The story goes that a character played by Jean Dujardin is the biggest star in the world in silent pictures. He's an adventure star. He's a comedy star. He's beloved by everybody. He's got a beloved dog who's in his pictures as well. And he's the biggest star in the world. He's so big, in fact, that when a girl kind of pops out of the crowd and kisses him on the cheek, she makes the cover of Variety, and she uses that to parlay that into her own movie career. And just as her career begins to rise, his begins to fall, because she's going to be starring in the first talkies, the first films that have speech in them. And he is French, and so he doesn't really feel like he can transition very well to talkies. But it's interesting, though, when you watch the movie, they don't really frame that very well, because early on you see him actually talking to reporters on the radio. So people know what he sounds like, so they know what to expect if he's in a talking picture. He just refuses to make talking pictures. He thinks that they're a fad. And thus, because of that, his star falls, hers rises. But she's also got this very deep care for him because she was one of her first films is with him, and he was very kind to her, and they had a very emotional, romantic connection. So she begins to feel for him and take care of him and try to bring him back and save his life. The dynamic between Berenice Bejo and Jean Dujardin is really great. So they've got a wonderful chemistry together, and that really shows in the final moments of the movie. But like I said, this is a movie. This is more of a popcorn movie that just happens to be an homage to silent films, because the story is very much a Star is Born or Singing in the Rain is a very similar story. Just this doesn't have any dialogue in it. And I get why people went for this. I get why individual portions of the Academy certainly went for this, because the style is so heavily pronounced. It's so reliant on style. Even the screenplay was nominated, even though there's no words, because they did such a great job of scripting the action of the movie, and people really appreciated someone who could script action so very, very well. And there's a lot of really striking scenes in this that are very beautiful. There's one wonderfully metaphoric scene where she's walking up some stairs, he's walking down some stairs, and it's this perfect little juxtaposition of where they're headed in their careers. I like a lot of this movie, but like I said, it's incredibly lightweight in the end, and I think that's what really is responsible for its reputation. It's not a bad movie by any stretch, and anyone who thinks this is a bad movie is really foolish. But is it a best picture? No, of course not. That is not what this is, and I definitely agree with anybody who said that this didn't deserve to win Best Picture. It was a weak year. Your best bets that year are Midnight in Paris and Moneyball, by my estimation. And so, yeah, definitely a weak year for Best Picture nominees. For anyone that was going to gain if anything was going to gain a wide swath of support, I guess it would be a movie like this that has so much appeal across so many different branches of the Academy.
Yeah, I watched it for the first time this weekend, and I can't separate the Best Picture win from it, and that's what's frustrating. Because you're right, it is a very good movie.
Yeah.
And the art part of it is almost... It came off as gimmicky to me when something like Birdman, that art element is more... I guess you could argue that's gimmicky as well, but to me it's more impressive. This went backwards and just kind of, like you said, was an homage to silent pictures. And it worked for what they were doing, but I'll take the new Star is Born every day of the week, and 4 or 5 times on Sunday over
right.
But you're right. It doesn't make it a bad movie. The acting is great. Everything they do flawlessly. It's the reputation that it's the Best Picture win that is what prevents me from just being like, this movie's amazing, and that's not fair to the movie.
Right.
It's just what I'm bringing to it.
Yeah.
But it was way easier to watch than you'd think for a silent movie. And the way they work in the sound you do hear it's impressive. I mean, everything they do is good. There's really nothing wrong with the movie. John Goodman is great in it. It really is good. It's a lot darker than you'd think. I mean, like you said, it's A Star is Born.
Right.
And I like that story. I just really like what Bradley Cooper and Lady Gaga did a couple years ago so much better, and that's not fair. But I definitely think people should check it out. It is on HBO right now if you want to watch it for free.
The Academy did this movie no favors by giving it Best Picture. Now, at least it made it did make it a movie that people can go back to and recall and have a good time watching. But again, there is so much resentment towards this film that its reputation is more, based on people writing BuzzFeed articles about why it shouldn't have won Best Picture or won. That's where the way more of his reputation, or its dog. The dog came out of this the biggest star, because we haven't heard from either. Another thing that's probably hurt his reputation is that Jean Dujardin and Berenice Bejo really just went back to France and kept working over there and didn't do anything else here that would keep this movie alive and give it any type of different reputation. Whereas Uggy the dog actually went on to write his own biography, apparently.
But yeah, like I said, it's on HBO Max. If you have a subscription to that, it is worth checking out if you haven't seen it. Maybe you need to watch it twice. One time to get the reputation out of your mouth, get that taste out of your mouth, and then another time to watch it for what it is.
Yeah, your list of best picture movies that you've seen has gotten pretty good since the show started, huh?
Yeah, and I mean, compared to most people, it's already pretty good. Obviously, compared to you, it's nothing. But this was one of the few modern ones that I hadn't seen yet. So
yeah,
I wonder how far back I could go.
You know what? We should just pick a best picture winner for next week too, just to see. Keep the list going.
Keep padding my stats.
Yeah.
One thing we have been neglecting is 1991.
Oh yeah.
One Good Cop. Man, I've seen this years ago. I don't remember it at all.
No, I don't really remember it either. I know Michael Keaton's in it, and that's about it. I mix it up with about a dozen other Michael Keaton movies from that era.
That weren't Batman.
Yeah, exactly.
A Rage in Harlem, a cover I always liked. This is not the cover. It's a poster that you're watching on YouTube, but I've never actually seen it. So.
No, and this was an attempt to make Robin Givens into a star at just the exact wrong moment when her TV career was ending and about the time that she's coming out of her relationship with Mike Tyson, which left nobody very unfairly. She was abused by him, and the way she was treated by everyone in the media was really super unfair. He beat her up. And he comes out of this like he came off in their interview in 2020 like he was the victim. Like it's really weird. That was a weird time in her career, and then to have this movie coming out on top of that was really it was never going to be easy for her.
Yeah. And then there was Truly Madly Deeply.
Yeah, and I've never heard anything about this. I wanted to see this because it is Alan Rickman. I'm not sure if it's available or not. And I also see the name Anthony Minghella, and I start thinking of The English Patient, and then I fall asleep.
Yeah, I mean, Alan Rickman's impossible to be boring, but
True.
at the same time, I didn't try to find it. Next week, we got Paper Spiders, Stealing Chaplin, Reboot Camp, 15 Things You Didn't Know About Bigfoot, and Queen Marie. We're going to pick a classic. We'll look at an Oscar contender. We'll announce it pretty soon. And in 1991, Stephen King's Sometimes They Come Back. I believe that's a TV movie. Madonna's Truth or Dare, FX2, and Sweet Talker and Switch also turned 30. So maybe we'll catch one or two of those.
Hopefully, yeah. That'll be the plan.
Yeah, I'm surprised we didn't make a Warren Beatty movie, the classic. We have not had good luck with him. He's in Madonna's.
Oh, that's right. He's in Truth or Dare. Oh man. Yeah, we've not had much luck with him. Coming out of, especially like with Shampoo, which was a bad experience.
Probably his best movie is probably Madonna's Truth or Dare.
So next week's classic, Bugsy. No.
Let's not do that. If it won the Oscar, I guess we could force it through. But
right.
All right. Let's before we get to Flickchart, I just want to remind everybody to head over to patreon.com/criticspod, the best way to support the podcast. If you want any of our TeePublic merch, go to ihatecritics.net/criticspod, or I'm sorry, ihatecritics.net. Click on the TeePublic link in the right-hand corner. This is a very quick episode, apparently. So
we'll take some extra time on Flickchart. It's fine.
Live Free or Die Hard versus Harry and the Hendersons.
Oh man, they're both garbage, but Live Free, I guess.
Yeah,
Kevin Smith's in that, isn't he?
Yeah.
There you go. That's the
I
reason.
didn't hate it, but yeah, I'm not a big Harry and the Hendersons fan. Star Trek Beyond and Collateral.
Collateral
is amazing.
Yeah.
The Machinist, 12 Monkeys.
12 Monkeys.
Yeah, it's impressive as Christian Bale nearly killing himself for a role. Changing Lanes or The Meg.
Um, Changing Lanes.
Yeah, I'm
Did you
with
see?
you.
Did you see the Ben Affleck Twitter thing this week?
I did not.
So apparently, and this I feel, oh man, just dude, what are you doing? So there's a dating site now that you can go on where you can actually send people who you match with, you can send them a video. And so he matched with some hot girl, and she's like, oh, that can't be the real Ben Affleck. So she unmatched with him, and he sent her a video message like, hey, why'd you unmatch with me? It's really me. And she put it on Twitter. It's like, dude, what are you thinking, man? What are you thinking?
Could have been worse.
It could have been worse. I guess it could have been his dick. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I mean, it's male in Hollywood. That's a 50-50 chance.
He had to know, though. He had to know. How did he not know what was going to happen there, man?
I mean, I think people have moments of weakness and just do stupid shit.
Yeah.
At least Adam Sandler was more in the news than he was for not getting let into IHOP. Did you hear about that?
No, I missed that.
Oh, that one. He had a mask on. He had his beard, and he walked into an IHOP, and the waitress was like, "It'll be 30 minutes." Like, oh, okay, we'll go somewhere else. And he left, and someone was like recording it, or somebody caught it, and they were like, "That was Adam Sandler," and it ended up going on TikTok and blew up to the point where he had to comment on it. He goes, the waitress told me that the all you could eat doesn't apply to the milkshake, so I decided to leave. That's funny. Two things went viral and we each only heard of one. That's how old we are. Battlefield Earth or Beer Fest?
The only time I'll ever pick Beer Fest.
Is there anything you'd pick Battlefield Earth over?
I can't even imagine.
Like, I don't even know if I'd pick it over Crash.
That would be tough. That would be very tough.
Diamonds Are Forever, Superman 4, The Quest for
Good
Money.
God. I mean, they're both garbage. But I guess Sean Connery is probably the better Bond, and Superman 4 is unwatchable unless you're watching it with a group of people who can really make fun of it.
Yeah. The Curious Case of Benjamin Button versus Air Force One.
Get off my plane! No. I'm going with Benjamin Button. I know it's not beloved Fincher classic and all, but it's still Fincher, and there's still a great deal of style.
I like it. I just don't want to watch it.
Next week's classic.
Yeah, you don't gotta. And anything I can do to avoid Harrison Ford, I'm good.
Just Harrison Ford's 1990s action movies have definitely declined in my memory, as opposed to many other things.
Well, I mean, they're basically what we just watched with Michael B. Jordan.
Yeah.
Ninja Assassin, Easy Rider.
Easy Rider. I mean, Ninja Assassin's a really terrible film. Easy Rider is not desperately overrated. Thank you. Yes.
The Sandlot or Life of Pi?
Life of Pi. I don't understand the cult around Sandlot.
No, dislike Sandlot, but Life of Pi is really good. Clueless or She's All That?
Clueless.
By a lot.
By a lot, yes.
I mean, you would think those are very similar, I think, if on the surface, but if you watch them, there's a lot more depth in Clueless than She's All That. The Great Gatsby, Bottle Rocket.
Bottle Rocket. Hell of a movie.
The Sixth Sense, Transformers.
Sixth Sense. It's a good day for Bruce Willis movies.
Even his bad ones are winning.
Right?
Before Sunrise, Stormtroopers or Super Troopers.
Before Sunrise, by a lot.
The Assassination of Jesse James by the coward Robert Ford or School of Rock.
School of Rock.
Yeah.
I appreciate the Jesse James movie, though.
Absolutely, but I've seen School of Rock too many times. A Simple Favor, Father of the Bride.
A Simple Favor. I love that movie. I've watched it a few times, even this far after it came out. It's so good.
I've seen it 3 times. I do feel like it hasn't lived on like I'd like it to.
I know.
Pop
I wish more
culture.
people liked it.
That's a hell of a movie. Do they dislike it, or they just haven't seen it?
I think most people haven't seen it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a hell of a movie. Inner Space or Spider-Man 2002.
Spider-Man.
Dracula, Dead and Loving It, Lethal Weapon.
Lethal Weapon.
Yes. The Great Escape, Benji the Hunted.
The Great Escape.
The Benji the Hunted was the only good Benji movie. I agree with you. Easy Rider or King Kong 1933.
King Kong, an actual classic.
Yes. A Walk to Remember, Spider-Man 2.
Spider-Man 2.
It's not like me anymore, dying. Coming to America, The Patriot.
Oh, take your pick. I don't care for either one. You can have it. You pick for me.
It's called America.
Thank you.
Unless I don't hate The Patriot either. Dracula 1931 or The Bone Collector.
Dracula. Bone Collector is bad.
Yeah. Hangover Part 2 Armageddon.
Hangover Part 2. Good God, I still hate Armageddon.
It's not fair to Bruce Willis. He was having such a good week.
He literally gives no shits about anything, so he doesn't care at all about anything.
Have you heard the whole Kevin Smith story about him calling him up recently?
No, there's a recent interaction.
I think in the last 5 years, he just called Kevin Smith and said, "Hey, Kevin, how you doing?" Kevin was just like, "Bruce Willis?" And he's sitting there talking. They talked for like an hour, and he was like, "Yeah, I got some pictures of your daughter, Ruby, and I thought I wanted to send the pictures to you." And he's like, "My daughter's name's Harley," but he's not correcting him. He's just sitting there listening, and his wife's watching him talk to him. And then 6 months goes by, and then Bruce Willis goes, "I'm sorry, it was the wrong Kevin."
Wow. That is awesomely awkward.
Yeah. And this is after all the horrible shit Kevin Smith said about Bruce Willis before that.
No, but he probably had just no idea. Just no idea what he was talking. Did not care at all.
Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, Space Cowboys.
Indiana Jones.
Bicentennial Man, The Happening.
I mean, at least The Happening is easy to laugh at, so I'll go with The Happening. Bicentennial Man's just unwatchably dull.
I agree. The Dark Knight, The Island.
The Dark Knight.
Jerry Maguire, Shaft.
Shaft 2000.
Yes.
It's Jerry Maguire by a lot.
Agreed. Magnolia, Platoon.
Magnolia.
Coin is coming out.
Love Magnolia.
Say, just so I don't know if the camera can see it. It does say today, so I'm not cheating. Do not like that movie. Terminator 2, Judgment Day, Sweet 16, the director's cut.
I'm not sure what Sweet 16 is. I'm probably going to pick Terminator 2 no matter what, though. So,
My Girl or Terminator 2?
Terminator 2 over dead Macaulay Culkin. Thriller is not a no. It's a short film, I guess.
The Muppets Take Manhattan. The Avengers Take the World. Or the universe.
Avengers Endgame. Yeah. I like Muppets Take Manhattan, though.
My dad finally watched Avengers Endgame maybe a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago. He texted me, my brother. They really wrote themselves in the corner with the way they cut off some of these characters. I'm like, we've been playing them for 15 years. They don't want to do it. On top of that, they literally did not write themselves into any corner because now they can go back in time and do whatever they want. So what are you talking about? Miller's Crossing or Uncle Buck?
Miller's Crossing.
Yes. 9 or The Descendants.
Descendants. Underrated movie, The Descendants.
Absolutely. Something's got to give, not another teen movie.
Fuck. Who cares? Who truly cares about either of those fucking movies? You go ahead and pick. I don't care.
I don't hate Not Another Teen Movie. This is awesome.
Fuck you.
Transformers: Revenge of the Fallen, The Hills Have Eyes, the remake. What's the guy's name? What the fuck? Aja something or other.
Yeah, Alexandra Aja.
That's right.
Hills Have Eyes because because it's shorter than Transformers and not as loud.
Even if it's not shorter, it's shorter. My Super Ex-Girlfriend, 3:10 to Yuma.
Yeah, the choice here is very obvious, but I do want to say that my Super Ex-Girlfriend had such a great premise and such a good idea. It's just such a shame they executed it like a sitcom, and they just fucked up the execution of it so badly because Uma Thurman is so great. And she was such a perfect choice to play that character. And there was a really good idea there. And then they just leaned into every single cliche about women being clingy and this nonsense and how especially that would be hard if she's a superhero. And it's just like, damn it, you had a good idea, you know, and you fucked it up.
Love men. Cool Hand Luke, Titan 8 AE. Don't know that movie at all.
Cool Hand Luke, I guess. I don't remember if I liked it or not.
Disclosure, Catwoman.
Disclosure, because Catwoman's unwatchable. Not that Disclosure is much better.
Okay, book. The Birds, Back to the Future Part 3.
The Birds.
Agreed. I still know what you did last summer. Beavis and Butthead Do America.
I still know what you did last summer is one of the worst ideas for a sequel ever. Like, what a terrible name and just awful, just completely awful execution. It's so bad. It's just so bad. Beavis and Butthead by a lot.
Yeah, it was Scream Light from the get-go. From
right.
Even Jennifer Love Hewitt being like Nev Campbell Light at the time. Everybody in Scream was like a bigger star than, I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. The Adventures of Tintin, House of Flying Daggers.
I like both of these. Tintin's actually not a bad movie, but House of Flying Daggers is a work of art. It's just gorgeous.
Agree. Thor Ragnarok, phenomenon.
Thor Ragnarok.
Transformers, Revenge of the Fallen, The Net.
Oh, I have to pick a Dennis Miller movie. The Net.
It's shorter.
It is shorter. Yes. That's my metric. If it gets Transformers, it's shorter, then it's fine. It's actually better.
Next will be Ben-Hur versus Transformers. It's shorter. I'm going Ben-Hur. Escape from LA, The Karate Kid Part 2.
I have a real soft spot for Karate Kid Part 2 and for Escape from Escape from LA. Oh, never mind. Then fuck that movie. I was thinking of Escape from New York, which I do have positive things to say about.
Yeah, Escape from LA was such a disappointment.
Oh, when he's surfing, like, what the fuck were you thinking?
The basketball stuff. It was just kind of.
What the fuck?
And I was in the age where I wanted it to be good, so I pretended so long, and then I just had to give up.
Yeah, it came along at that time when you were like I was too young for Escape from New York. Like I wasn't allowed to watch it until I was older. And so that made the sequel, like as I'm coming to an age where I'm now starting to be able to watch, R-rated action movies. I'm like, oh, okay, now Escape from Los Angeles. This gives me an excuse to see Escape from New York. And now I can see the sequel and it's gonna be cool and it's gonna be an adult. And man, that was disappointing.
Well, my brother was on a Kurt Russell kick since I remember. I've never not known him to love Kurt Russell. And so we had seen, we were kids, but all those movies, Big Trouble in Little China, Escape from New York, The Thing, maybe not kids, but like junior high and on, he was starting to get into those movies on Fox on Saturday mornings when they would come on or whatever after wrestling. And so when that came out, I was like, we were super excited for it. And it was just like, we liked it because it was like, look, he was making basketball shots from across the court, and it was awesome. And then you didn't really mean it. Idiocracy or the Black Panther?
Black Panther.
Yeah.
Although Idiocracy, we're about to elect The Rock president in 3 years, so maybe Idiocracy becomes even more.
And Trump was enough.
I mean, we do love TV shows where guys get kicked in the nuts. So
I was showing my son Stone Cold giving Donald Trump the stunner. He was like, "Are you kidding me?" Come on. Spider-Man, Far From Home, the whole 9 yards.
The Spider-Man.
Oh yeah, I was thinking of the Andrew Garfield one. Because I do like the whole 9 yards. Bruce Willis is falling apart again. Sahara, Bonfire of the Vanities.
They're both terrible, but I guess Bonfire of the Vanities is terrible in a more interesting way.
I guess that's true. I was going to say because Sahara was safer. I was going to go with that. But you make a good point. You've convinced me. And Flickshot agrees. I think that was a good choice. What the screen says.
It says that. So, yeah, we were right then.
People on YouTube can vouch for that.
Right. For YouTube people, our rankings on here are not necessarily entirely reflective because we've done this for so long. Just certain things are where they are. And, you know, if you look and see The Dark Knight at 268 or wherever it is, it's there because we don't take the time to move those things up.
And Heat's number 15 because Josh and I really love that movie. And it just won a lot.
And I've done a lot to try and drag it down, and it just never works.
And then when Josh quit, it stopped coming up. Moonraker, Shaun of the Dead.
Shaun of the Dead. I'm not a huge fan of Shaun of the Dead, but I don't like any Bond movies. So. It's
weird. I appreciate the Shaun of the Dead fan base more than I appreciate the Bond fan base. Forbidden Planet or Wolf of Wall Street?
I don't think I've seen Forbidden Planet.
Neither have I. Mighty Ducks 2, Wolf of Wall Street. See, end the show right there.
Hey, Martin Scorsese is going to be doing the introduction to Mean Streets and Goodfellas at the TCM Festival this weekend. That ought to be cool. I'll be doing coverage of TCM Fest on my radio station website and in my writing, which I'll post on our Facebook page. But there's a lot of really, really cool stuff at TCM Fest that you can actually see on HBO Max this coming weekend, where there's this thing, they're doing a feature on this thing called LA Rebellion, which was a group of black film directors who went to UCLA around the same time that, you know, guys like just after the period of like when Lucas, Spielberg, and those guys were at UCLA. They made some really interesting movies that are now going to be available for the first time on HBO Max, and really absolutely worth checking out. They'll debut this Friday. The Bless Their Little Heart and To Sleep with Anger are two really interesting movies by two really great underknown directors who are I actually had a chance to talk to, and that interview will be part of my coverage. There's also a special on the horror films of Michael Curtiz. He only did, I mean, of the 150 movies that he directed, including Casablanca and just about every classic movie of the period, he also did these 3 amazing horror films. Some of the first Technicolor films in history, and they're incredible. The one is called The Walking Dead, which is with him and Boris Karloff, which is his take on the zombie movie. And then the movie that I talked about, I'm going to be writing about, is called Dr. X, which is a mystery horror thriller comedy, has this comedy character kind of at the center of it, but it's also, you know, a really fun mystery sort of horror movie at the center, and it's really very good, and the full Technicolor redux that they've done on it is incredible. It looks gorgeous. It's a 1933 movie that with this 2-color Technicolor has this. It adds so much to the beauty and the look, the horror film look of this, and just incredible that he directed a color film, you know, so long ago in the past, prior to Casablanca.
That's awesome. Will we hear any of this stuff next week?
Yeah, it's all going up on online this weekend, so I'll have a full interview with directors podcast, and a feature on Nichols and May, the comedy team Nichols and May, which Elaine May and Mike Nichols go on from there to become two of the biggest directors of the late 60s and 70s into the 80s. So there's a lot of really amazing stuff at TCM Fest this weekend. So if you're going to be watching, you know, Turner Classic Movies or HBO Max, you can check out a lot of this stuff. A piece I've got going up tomorrow, if I might continue to promote myself, it's on the cartoons of Tex Avery. They've got a documentary that hasn't been seen since 1988 on Tex Avery, the King of Cartoons, and then they're showing an hour. This is all on TCM, 6 a.m. Saturday morning and 7 a.m. Saturday morning. It's Tex Avery at MGM, and it just 7 of his famous shorts that they chose to show. And it's really interesting. There's a lot of really problematic, deeply racist stuff in Tex Avery's past that is not being touched upon at all in this. It's really, they found 7 of the safest ones that they could, that they're all kind of weird and unusual. Some of them are very funny and innovative, and none of the ones they're showing here really are too problematic. One of them's got a blackface bit that you kind of cringe at, but there's a lot of that in classic cartoons, and especially in the work of Tex Avery. It's a little weird that they're not using this as an opportunity to talk about Tex Avery and his, you know, what he did and his reputation, and how problematic he is in many ways. Like, and not talking about canceling him or any of that nonsense, but like just have it. It's an opportunity to have a conversation where we can look at the art that's been created in the past and the people who create it in a context that can be scholarly and open and honest. And it would seem that cancel culture doesn't want us to be honest about the things that we don't like. And that's really unfortunate. Cancel, by that I mean the people who try to weaponize it. Right. As opposed to those of us who just want us to be honest about the things that happened in the past, and really ignoring, you know, the bad about Tex Avery is to ignore what really happened. And I don't think they're venerating him. They're not treating him. I mean, they're playing a documentary that does play up his legend, but it's not that they're being irresponsible, TCM. It's just that they're kind of overlooking an important aspect of it. So I touch on that in the article. I've got reviews of each of the 7 shorts that are pretty weird, but also some of them are kind of incredible. There's a lot of Tex Avery tropes that he created that you don't even realize he created. You know, he created essentially what are cartoon physics. He was one of the first people to break the fourth wall. He did this one in late 1930s or early 1940s, I guess it was, called Red Hot Red Riding Hood, where he takes the Red Riding Hood story, but moves it to the Jazz Age after the characters complain about telling the same story about Red Riding Hood, the wolf, in Grandma's house. So it becomes where the wolf goes to a jazz club and Red Riding Hood is the performer, and he's this is the term wolf whistle comes from this cartoon, because he's whistling at her and his eyes are popping and he's going crazy for her and he's trying to hit on her, and she turns him down, but invites him to go to Grandma's house, which is now this after hours party spot. And Grandma is this man eater who goes after the wolf and tries to have sex with him just in every possible way. Oh, and it ends, this cartoon, and I'm going to spoil it because it's just so bizarre, that a cartoon would end with the wolf pulling out a gun and taking his own life. Then his ghost pops out of his corpse and sits back down at the jazz club table and starts whistling at Red Riding Hood.
I remember my daughter, I don't know, I think it was I don't know what it was. Basically, a fish popped out of the water, pulled a gun out, and shot itself in the head. From my dad was trying to show her old cartoons when he was a kid. He was like, you know what? I'm going to stop now. Yeah. Sounds entertaining though in terms of all the content that you got going on this week. So
it's really great stuff, and I can't say enough about the folks at TCM Fest for allowing me to have the access that they've given me to all of this stuff. I'm hoping to get to a piece on director Chantal Ackerman and her short films. She's really an incredible artist, and that's one of the things I could cover if I find the time. I've got so many of these things. There's a great piece on New York and the history of New York in movies, the streets of New York, and it's got this really amazing perspective on this classic Harold Lloyd movie that was filmed in New York and then recreated again in Los Angeles, where they create New York, and he points out all the differences in the streets, and it's really great. And then, of course, bringing New York through the years, the way that it was filmed in the 1918 to now is really a fascinating way to look at the history of a city.
That's awesome. Well, that's a very long way of saying D2 Mighty Ducks. End of the show.
All right, thank you.
Talk to you later. Bye.